my goodness. We needed some music around here. It was a bit quiet. We're live, Melissa.
Oh no,
We're live.
sorry guys.
Oh my goodness. All right, I'll lower that volume down. I'll keep it in the background.
Okay. What do y'all think? My hair is
know,
going
right?
crazy.
It's only us two tonight. So
Yeah.
you get Melissa and you get Liza. And then if you guys are following us on Instagram or Facebook, I did post a story earlier, so did Melissa. All these gray hairs that I have going on, y'all gonna have to just ignore. But anyways, thank you for joining our live. We are ATX Homegirls, a diverse group of local realtors, bringing you valuable content about everything real estate in the greater Austin area.
And apparently we're rocking out at the rock show.
Yeah, I know, right? Does it sound like it? Can you hear it? I wonder if anybody else can hear it. But anyway, so guys, we are doing a part 2 series today. Reason being is because we are noticing a lot of changes in the market. That's kind of freaking out sellers a bit, but giving opportunity to the buyers. And we wanted to make this into a part 2 series because it's still ongoing.
Yeah.
And Melissa, I mean, the reason for that, I think the reason we wanted to do this is because last year, everybody's so used to, right? For years, everybody was so used to a season in the market, right? A season to buy for investors, a season to buy for first-time home buyers, a season to sell for sellers, right? To maximize or get their home sold for top dollar, right? There was a season for everything. Last year in 2021, that went out the door. There was no season. It was just list your home, it'll sell. It's distressed, it'll sell. And it'll sell for over what was listed, right?
Right.
20,000, 50,000, 100,000, 500,000, whatever that magical number was, it was just sold over asking price with nothing in the market that supported those prices, right? So here we are this year, and we're still seeing that in the beginning of the year. And all of a sudden, and it seems like it was all of a sudden, but we've seen these indicators, right? From our past lives, if anybody has viewed our past lives, we've seen these indicators that could potentially change how people sell their home, and then buyers too, right?
Right.
So Melissa, I did want to ask you about that because I know you're hit heavy on listings. What are you seeing still, right? From the last time we did our live 2 weeks ago, we used to say back in 2021, it's buyer fatigue. Do you remember that? Buyer fatigue. There's a bit of a slowdown. What do you think? And then I'll lower this music a bit down so people can really hear what you have to say. All right, let me lower that down. All right, go ahead, girl.
So, I mean, here we are, right? This is what it is. I mean, we saw the writing on the wall. And as far as the listing side is concerned, really my shift in my conversation now with the sellers is, first off, what is their motivation to sell? And if it's to make a lot of money, we're going to have to come back to the drawing board with strategy. What I'm finding right now is that timing is everything.
Right.
So for my sellers who are like, okay, I'm going to meet with you. We're going to have this listing appointment and thinking of listing my house like in October, August, November. And I'm thinking, I don't know, like if your goal is to sell, how flexible and how uncomfortable do you want to be? So a couple of things that I've suggested to my sellers. First off, and foremost and first off and foremost, maximize right now while the interest rates are still like this, because they're going to go like this is the prediction, right? So it's the summer, you have motivated buyers. Why are you going to wait? Here are my 2 suggestions. You have an extended closing, which I've had other sellers do, and they made out really good by listing their house in late March, early April, and closing in June. That was for specific reasons for certain sellers. But if that's the case, let's go ahead and do that. Some buyers are able to lock in those rates, and it still could be beneficial for both parties.
Right.
Or sell your house, close, and then lease your home back. What's the worst that the buyer can say is no. Mm-hmm. But don't close yourself to a motivated buyer right now, because a motivated buyer today may be a buyer that isn't able to qualify for a loan tomorrow because the interest rates have gone up and those calculations come in and oops, all of a sudden I used to be able to afford a home a month and a half ago for 4.25, or I'm saying 4.25, 425K. And all of a sudden my budget's looking more like 375 to 380, and I can't find the home that I want. Well, here we are. So for sellers, this is my advice. If you're thinking of selling, go ahead and just put your house on the market right now. Yes, you're going to be in with inventory with other sellers. If you can afford to wait, then just wait.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it seems like our strategy now, as far as for sellers go, right, that we have to be more aggressive. It's not just as simple as listing it and it'll sell, right?
No, you got to do a lot more. I mean, look,
Yeah.
every listing is different. Every listing agent does it different. I've always made it a practice to present the home in a way that it shines. So my practice as a realtor, as a listing agent, is these are the things, and Liza, we talk about this all the time. What are the three things? Condition,
Yeah. Condition,
location,
and price.
price. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes location you can't help. Sometimes condition, maybe you can do some touch-ups or take care of some deferred maintenance, but the price is going to kill you every time. And you know what? The price from a week ago or a month ago may not be the price today. You know, I may have been able to get you more a month ago, and today I may not be able to get you as much, or maybe I can get you right where market is, but you won't have multiple offers. Multiple offer strategy is going to be to list it under market. Right. So if we know your home is going to sell for 450, maybe we list it for 437. I mean, this is crazy, right? Mm-hmm. This is not what we would have done in January, February, March, or April, but it's a strategy that works.
Yeah. So, and here we are with that. And you're right about that, Melissa, because sellers that have listed, you know, with the anticipation that they were going to get multiple offers or listed at higher than what was supported out there, because that was the sentiment back then for sellers, right? That's what they were used to. That's what everybody was used to. And they keep seeing, nothing against anybody when they market and they say sold over asking price. There's nothing wrong with that. But when people that are sellers see that time and time again on social media or the news, right? They're thinking, oh, wow, I can get over asking price too. Yeah. And now that strategy has to change. If you're a seller in this market, price aggressively, right? Or maybe a bit under market. So you can draw in, hopefully, multiple offers. There's no guarantee ever, any guarantee in this market, because we don't know where that's going. There's what are we seeing, Melissa? We're seeing more inventory still. That's still ongoing. Last year, when we couldn't figure out why there was a slowdown, there was like a couple weeks or so that was a slowdown. We could not figure out why. And then it would pick up right up again, right? So we came up with this thing called, and we didn't come up with it, but we were using the term buyer fatigue. Now we're still seeing more inventory come on the market. We're seeing tons of price reductions, right?
Like more price reductions than homes hitting the market.
Yes.
If that is not an indicator of something's really happening, then I don't know what is.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we have to pay attention to the data, right? Whenever someone is wanting to list, we have to pay attention to what are the other homes selling for? How long have they been on the market? And where does, Mr. Seller want to be, right? To be able to price aggressively and sell. And depending on how motivated they are, there's some sellers out there that want to test it for a little bit, and that could hurt them, right? Depending on their situation. I had one seller that wanted to test the market, and it was overpriced, and it's hurting him right now.
Yeah.
So that's for sellers. Now for buyers, right? Going back to the topic of
before I forget, the one thing that I wanted to say was, and not all agents do it the same way. So we got to shift our mindset if you are looking to sell your home. Okay. So last year is out the window. First quarter is out the window. The things that you could have done in the first quarter and last year is done. So what I mean by that, and Liza knows exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to just throw my house on the market. I'm going to throw it at a price that my neighbor 2 blocks away put their house on the market for, and I'm going to see what comes my way. I haven't taken care of my deferred maintenance. I'm not even going to do anything to my house. I'm going to clean it. They're going to come do these photos, and I'm running all the way to the bank with all my money. No, that's not going to get you. You're not going to be successful doing that anymore, in my opinion and in my experience. So for me, and this is just me, not all agents do this and not all sellers care to do this, but to present your house in a way that the first time the buyers see it is polished and ready to go. Your house, any deferred maintenance you can afford to take care of it. Your house is professionally cleaned. I'm not talking about wiping counters, professionally cleaned. You have staging, professional photos, a good marketing package with video and drone. Like this should be a standard, in my opinion, for all listings, because you're the end user or the buyer that's looking at your home on their cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at 3 to 7 seconds. That probably is a lot, but maybe 2 to 3 pictures. And if they don't like what they see, they keep going and they're going on to the next house. So you have to draw them in, get them in the door, but you can still do all those things and then you screw yourself up on the price.
Right.
So it's a combination of the two, right? Presenting it in a nice way and pricing it to market. And you'll find success in this market.
Exactly. And I completely agree with you on that, Melissa, because back then, right, like you said, last year in the first quarter, buyers didn't have a lot of options, a lot of inventory to choose from. So it's one of those things where pictures really, they mattered, but not that much, because they're like, you know what, let's take a look at it. This is what's out there right now, and we need a house. Now, when, as you see, buyers have more options. So what are they doing? You're like, oh, you know what? There's 10, 20 homes that fit my criteria. Let me see if I can narrow this down.
Yeah.
Right. And if your pictures aren't presentable, right? Curb appeal, landscaping, interior clean, it looks nice and crisp, they're probably going to skip your home. That's why pictures are very important, professional pictures. And just like you mentioned, everything else that they can do to make it presentable and marketable and hopefully capture that buyer to where they want to view that home inside, right? You want to get buyers inside your home.
Yeah.
So definitely agree with you on that, Melissa.
And a lot of times what you're seeing online, guys, so even if you're a buyer, and I say this to sellers and buyers, what you see on these third-party websites that's syndicated through the MLS, you're always only going to see the sales price. You're never going to know if it went pending or under contract. You're never going to know what they contracted for. And you're really not going to ever know what it sells for. You're just going to see that sales price, and that is it. So the data that we hold and protect as agents is to benefit you as a buyer or seller, so that you're not paying more for a home than you don't need to, because right now the comps have caught up. So you may have overpaid for a home last year or the beginning of this year, but now hopefully you should be able to put an offer on a home at sales price if it's priced accordingly and appropriately for today's market. And you should be able to appraise, because there should be comps to support it. And then from a seller's perspective, the agent will tell you, look, these have closed and this is a sales price, or these haven't closed. I've talked to the agents, and these agents told me that this is what they contracted for. These other ones, maybe not so much, but here you go.
Exactly. And Melissa, we have a comment on a cleaning company.
Hey, Trooper, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Trooper says, what cleaning company do y'all suggest in the Austin area looking to put a home on the market soon, and we'll need to do a deep clean? Okay, well, we have some suggestions. I live in the East Travis County area, Trooper, the Manor, Texas area. I have a cleaner that does my personal home and my listings, and I'll be happy to put her information in the box here. I know in the South location, I think you've used Juani's cleaning service before, Liza. She's really good. So we can put both of those in there for you, Trooper. But I will say, word of mouth from a realtor, they're going to know the bbest cleaners, right, Liza?
Yeah, exactly. Because we deal with that all the time. So we definitely, when we need to get it ready, right? That's the first one we're calling landscaping and cleaners for the interior of the home. We definitely need that. You want it to feel welcoming, have that fresh scent whenever buyers do walk into your home, because they will be, walking into your home, and you definitely want it presentable. So hopefully we'll get you some more information on their Trooper if you want to hang tight. Let's see.
I'm going to put that here.
Yeah.
96. And this lady that I just put in there, Trooper, she does my personal home, and she takes care of all my sellers. She does work mostly the Eastern Corridor, but she can go in other areas as long as her schedule permits. She's very busy because she's very good and she's very reasonable. So you're looking at, what are you paying for a make ready? I can tell you what my sellers are paying, or what I'm paying. for make ready. It should be in and around between 175 and 250, depending on the home.
Exactly. Yeah, and it depends on landscaping. The other on one of my listings, because my client's grass was really tall and he hasn't cut it. I want to say he spent about 120 $20 just for cutting the grass, edging, trimming, cutting off some limbs, making it presentable. So I mean, it depends, right? How big is your yard? How big is it? How much work needs to be put into it? So definitely for curb appeal, landscaping and cleaning, like Melissa had said, professional pictures. I mean, just a standard, right? So earlier, like we mentioned earlier, you used to just be able to put on these homes. And I wanted to ask you this, Melissa. So earlier this quarter and last year, right? And I know you do exceptional work with getting your listings ready, but how fast were these homes moving, right? I mean, you got the pictures out there, right? How fast were you able to get buyers in versus now?
Okay.
You know what I mean? That because I want people to know that. I want people to see. They need to understand what's happening right now.
Yeah. So the average days on market for me in my area for my listings were, and this is just crazy, y'all. Sign goes in the yard, buyers in the house, day 0, day 1, offers in day 1 and day 2, multiple offers in around day 3, and under contract by day 4. So it would not be uncommon last year in the first quarter of this year to have a listing on the market and actually have offers in hands to present to my seller in day 2 and 3.
Exactly.
And that with an average of 4 to 5 days in the market, as compared to today, the average is 10 to 14. I still think that's good. I don't know what the other markets are doing in the United States, but I feel like if you're doing all the right things and you have buyers in the door, you have an opening weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, feeder in the door, you have interest, and you start to reach the 7 to 8 day mark. If you get an offer, I feel that's still good, right? So you're looking at 7 to 10 days right now. I'm sorry, up to 14.
Right. And I think that's the problem. We need to have these real conversations when someone is ready, right, to list their home, set these expectations up front, right? Because a few years ago, it was not uncommon to have a house on the market for a month or two, right? That was the average, actually. 60 days was the average before a home could get sold. So all of last year, we're seeing 0 days, 1 day, not even a week on the market, and it's going pending, multiple offers, over asking price. Everybody has that in their head from a seller standpoint, from a seller's perspective, that's what they're expecting now. So, and I'm hoping that a lot of realtors will have that conversation with their clients, but the expectation now should be, we may get into multiple offers, we may not, but here's the data, right? Here's what's the average from the stats that we're pulling, right? Here are the homes that are on the market in your neighborhood. Here's what's selling. Here's what's still on the market. Here are the homes that have had price reductions recently. And this will give a better perception of what's happening so sellers can have realistic expectations. What do you think, Melissa?
Yeah, I think setting them up for success by way of having them understand what to expect is always the best practice. And I understand that, sometimes there could be a personal connection to a home where a seller's like, well, I really truly feel my home is worth this much or more, right? And that's great. And we actually feel the same way. We do want you to get sold for more. It makes everybody look good. Us, you're happy. But oftentimes that doesn't happen like that. So just being upfront with the seller from the get-go is best practice. And that's not to say that a seller would want you to go another direction. And if you do go the other direction and it's not successful, maybe putting something in the expectation that, okay, we're going to do it your way for like 7 to 10 days or 14 days. And then after that, we're going to have to go this way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. For a little bit to where it doesn't fully hurt you, right? Mm-hmm. For pricing it at a bigger price.
Trooper's got another question.
Yeah. Let's see.
Trooper says the home I mentioned actually has a tenant. What is the best way to show that kind of home to get the most traffic / buyers in the door? Let's give this to you, Liza.
Yes. Okay. So depending on your tenants, right? If your tenants, I used to do this. Here's a couple of tickets, or here's a stay at a hotel for the weekend, right? give me the weekend, right? Let me pay for, and I know this may be a bit much for some people, right? And people didn't really have to do this last year and earlier this year, but we're going to have to change that. We're going to have to change our perspective and our mentality, especially if you have tenants in your house that you're potentially wanting to sell. So if you could at least offer them 2 nights stay at a hotel, or maybe a movie night, right? Hey, go, I'll get you some tickets to a movie out, if you could be out the door between this time and this time. And that way, all of the buyers that are potentially interested in that property could get their foot in the door without having to make an appointment or it being a hassle for the tenant. Now, some tenants, and I do have a lot of listings like this where there's tenants living in the property and they have crazy schedules. Some of them want a 24-hour notice. And I know that's not really what a lot of realtors are like, and if they don't get back to you, it's a bit tough. But if you can get some sort of agreement with the tenant to work with you, like what days works for them, right? What's their work schedule? What's a gap that buyers can just come in at any point in time? That way it increases your potential to sell that home a lot faster. So
just go status trooper. So in the realtor language, when an agent's looking for homes for their buyers, they will be more attracted to the homes that say just go, because at any given time they can just take a buyer or tour a property and video tour for a client, and they like that. So at any point, like Liza says, speak with your tenants and just say, what's a point in the day where we know you won't be home? And then in the MLS, we have private realtor notes where we'll just say, just go between, I'm going to give an example, between 9 and 2, Monday through Friday. Right. And then when you're having an opening weekend, when your home is hitting the market, prepare them. And best case in your scenario would be an open house. So you maybe have an open house Saturday and Sunday from like 1 to 3. And so they know from 1 to 3, they're going to go see that movie, or they're going to go to a park.
And it works wonders. I mean, who doesn't love free stuff, right? Like, you know what? Okay, cool. And they know you're selling, right? Or they know that you're about to sell, or that it's coming up. They're aware of this. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll work with you on that. If you can provide some incentive to get them out of the house, that way buyers can view. Because I know that can be a bit tough depending on what type of tenants you have. Some tenants, they have crazy work schedules, and it's just, they're like, I can't make this work. So maybe providing that to them will give them incentive enough to leave the house for a bit, and then get buyers into the door. Hopefully that helped you out.
Yeah, those are good questions.
Yeah, that's a great question for tenants, for sure. I know that can be tough sometimes, or even homes that are for sale, but they have I'm seeing this a lot, by the way, homes that are for sale and they have a tenant until months before, a buyer, a first-time home buyer, or someone that's
lease in place for the next 6 months to a year.
Or a year, right? I've seen so many. I don't know if you've seen this, Melissa, but I've seen so many that a lease in place until next year, 2023, July of 2023, or a few months from now, right? And that doesn't necessarily work for a lot of buyers, especially if they're primary buyers that are going to occupy the home as a primary residence. It won't work financially if they're financing, because you have to occupy the home after you close within 60 days. It's just a rule. Otherwise, it's considered mortgage fraud. So that, keep that in mind when you're going to list. And if there is a tenant in place, that could decrease your buyer pool. It's going to have to be someone that has the capability of doing a second home, right? A second home loan or an investment loan, depending on what type, how long the tenant's going to be in there for, or a cash buyer. Or also a buyer that is okay, right? That they're okay not having to occupy the home in that length of time. Right. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind.
But we will say that, shifting from the sellers to the buyers, what does this mean for them?
What's the sentiment, right? Yeah. Oh, I got Jason Battles. I'm going to add him to the stream.
Okay. Hey, Jason.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
We're good.
Excellent.
Introduce yourself, Jason.
Oh my gosh, my lighting is, look white. How are y'all doing this evening?
Good. We've been live for a bit, and we just got off the topic of, and you jumped in right in good timing, because we were just talking about the topic when there's a house for sale that still has a tenant in place. And I was going to say the financing part, if their intention is to occupy it as a primary residence, there could be some conflict there on what type of loan they can do. So we just got done, but maybe since you just jumped in, maybe you can clarify that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And introduce yourself first. So introduce
hi there, everybody. I'm Jason Battles with CMG Financial. And so been working with Melissa and everybody for a very long time. And so, yeah.
Thank you
But
for
yeah,
coming
so
in.
with tenant occupancy from when you're incurring a primary residence. So with, you have a 60-day requirement to take primary residence. So that's where the conflict is going to come into play. So it's important that you're working with your seller in order to be able to vacate the tenant and make sure that you're not going to run into any issues on that, because that is definitely very much a hard stop that you do need to take that as primary residence. If you're doing an investment property in their hand, there's ways that we can go ahead and work with that and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a 60-day requirement for primary residence.
So if they get a second home loan or investment loan, that's pretty much the buyer pool that this seller would have if there's a lease still in place that is over the 60 days.
Even second home, you're still going to run into a couple of little issues and stuff like that, because technically that is not supposed to be an investment property, right? So
Right.
Exactly. So investment, on the other hand, though, you can go ahead and get the lease agreement be updated and amended with yourself on there, and so then you're basically carrying that lease over from the seller to yourself and stuff from an investment.
Can I ask a question regarding this loan? So let's say they do an investment loan. The lenders, will y'all require some sort of rental analysis for something like this?
Yeah. So whenever we do the appraisal reports, they're going to basically do a rental analysis on there as well. But generally speaking, we're on any type of new investment, we're going to use 75% of the lease agreement for qualifying purposes. So that's what we're going to use. So if $2,500, it's that's your lease monthly. We're going to use 75% of that, and that's going to be what you're using towards qualification, to offset that liability. And it's very important too, because it helps people to qualify for that additional amount. When you're an investor, you're taking in additional properties and stuff like that. So you want to offset one to be able to incur the next and stuff like that.
Awesome.
What are the kind of things that you see happening when it doesn't meet the demand for the like if the comps don't support? Is that dead in the water for those kind of loans?
Generally, it can be. We can always try to go. So if the fair market rental value is a little bit differently, there's ways that we can kind of try to work with that and stuff in order to make it, more ideal and stuff. But it's not a dead in the water. It's just, it needs to be kind of reevaluated, and we have to kind of go from there, because, for investors and things like that, we need from on the secondary for incurring the loan, who we sell the loan off, because, how the way the process of loans work. It's just something that we would just need to take on a case-by-case scenario, really. Yeah. But it's, in today's market and stuff, with the average amount of rents, the monthly rent, I really don't foresee it as an issue, because I'm sure, as you are very much aware, rental prices have increased drastically.
Like by 30%, right? In a year, something like that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely.
40% in 1 year. So healthy,
healthy
for the rental market. So, hey, if you're a
Correct.
seller, like this guy that's been on here, his name's Trooper, he has a house to sell. It's got a tenant in it. Like, his property may be in good shape to go into another investor hands if his tenant still has an active lease.
Exactly.
1,000%. Yeah, really, in current market right now, it's really not, it's kind of a non-issue, I think, right now, because rental prices are just continuing to accrue and get higher and higher. So really, it's for the foreseeable future, I don't really see it as a presentable issue, really. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of that, I'm going to go a little bit into that tenant side. I've had a client that just by themselves, they weren't going to be able to qualify for just a single family residence. So what they're considering now, and what I've had some other clients consider too, it's just weird. And it may just be me, I may be the anomaly, but what they're considering doing now is purchasing a duplex, living in one side, right? And they're going to pretty much get a loan together. Like, it was going to be her and her parents. So her parents were going to live on one side, and then she was going to live on the other side. And she had asked me, and I'm sure this is the same rule applies. She had asked me, she was like, what happens? And I think this is a good discussion for people to know, our viewers here. What happens if there's tenants in place, but it's not an investment, it's a primary residence, but you know what I mean? What I have, maybe clarify on that.
Yeah. So honestly, it's going to kind of work the same way, because we're dealing with a multifamily residence at that point. So if your seller at that point was, and I 100% recommend to people, if you have the ability to find yourself a duplex, and first time home buyers, everyone, regardless, that's a fantastic way to build an equity pool, and actually just to be able to further yourself in the whole real estate market and stuff. So 1,000%, I love purchasing of duplexes. But so the idea is that when you purchase a primary residence of a duplex, you have the ability to rent out the other side. So, as we all know, duplexes have a higher purchase price because they're multifamily. So you have the ability to use that rental. So let's go to the seller, right? So we have a seller that's a primary residence with current tenants on the other side. Same process as we talked before. When the new seller comes in, they have the ability to renew that lease and get that updated. And then there you go. It's actually, it takes out a lot of the legwork, because at that point you would hope that that seller has had a good tenant in place. Yeah.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, I know that's a bit tricky, because they're like, what happens if there's tenants? I'm like, it's really the same rule. As long as one side, and this is what I had told her, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. What I had told her is that if one side has a long-term lease, but the other side, their lease is going to be up in 30 days or they're month to month, then technically it could still be, it could qualify as a primary residence, because that tenant's going to leave anyways, or they're not going to renew that lease on one of the sides, so they can occupy, which means they would qualify for that primary residence loan, which I think is an incentive for a lot of buyers in this market, because it's a much lower down payment than I would think with duplexes is what, 20-25% with the duplex investment. Yeah. So that's one of the things that she had asked me, and I'm seeing that come up more, and I'm buyer heavy. So that's what I'm seeing on my end. Melissa, I'm not sure if you're seeing that, or Jason, if you've seen that with your buyers.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So so the principle lies that, like, if we have, let's just say we have a seller that has an investment, or the seller is an investor, right? That property right there is leased out by both tenants, right? Well, it's important that if we have our purchaser that's doing this as a primary residence, well, once again, they need to be able to access and take residence within 60 days, right? So working together to be able to make sure that they have a notice to vacate, or that lease term will be up within that acceptable time period. So then we can meet the standards for the loan to get them as primary residents within that 60-day period. It's generally, we don't run into issues. I hope that we're past, there are still those anomalies where, we might be dealing with some difficult tenants and stuff like that, right? But it hasn't been really so much of an issue in the current market and stuff. It's been very fluid. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm looking at, in the Austin area, the criteria I went with 650,000 or less in Austin. I just said Austin. I didn't do Pflugerville or Round Rock or anything. We have 18 units of inventory. 2 of them are in the 400 range. One is 410, one is 435. And I think that one that's 435, they're selling 2 other duplexes with this one. So it's like a 1031 exchange situation. So,
right.
I mean, I don't know, 650 is actually a lot for some people, but if you've got two people on a loan, I guess it could look different. But I think this is a significant amount more, Liza, than when we had our live, a month ago? Yeah. And we talked about there was only 3 on the market as opposed to 18 today.
I know. These are all indicators. And Jason, I was going to ask you, because I mean, as realtors, we see all kinds of things happening, but you as a lender, I'm sure you're, I mean, you guys do a huge volume, right? On a monthly basis. I'm sure you're seeing now that either buyers are able to get you contracts with a little bit over asking price, or maybe something, I don't know. Talk to us about that.
I had 3 roll in today, so I'm so excited to see that. We're starting to see an equilibrium in the market, which is incredible, right? People don't have 10, 20% to throw above asking price, right? We had a massive injection over the last 2 years of money coming into our market and just growth in general, right? So I'm absolutely just ecstatic to see this balancing and this equilibrium happening, to where we can now have buyers comfortably go in a little bit over asking price, and we can still meet the parameters of the down payment requirement for the loan, and have everything just move just blissfully for everybody. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Are you seeing more often now option periods, like reasonable option periods, so they can do their due diligence with inspections? And are you seeing less and less appraisal waivers?
Less and less. Oh, 1,000%. Yeah,
Okay.
Less and less. Absolutely. Right now, within a comfortable margin, right? You can absolutely still get appraisal values and stuff. And I've actually seen a lot of new contracts coming in without even appraisal waivers attached, which is a great thing as a purchaser, really, right?
Right.
It scares people to sign an appraisal waiver, right? Because
exactly.
We can look, y'all on your side can look at CMAs, everyone, that's comparative market analysis.
Right.
And in order to forecast what the house is going to value at, right? but it's just not it's not really necessarily a guarantee, right?
Yeah.
So not having, as a purchaser, not having to sign that appraisal waiver, it's just a relief, because it still leaves the option, if that house value does come in less, it allows yourself as a professional on that end to work with the agents to be able to find that healthy medium for everybody, right? Ideally, we would hope the seller would reduce price, but if anything, we can maybe split costs, or if buyer really wants the property, they can incur it and pay the difference of the appraisal shortage.
Exactly.
For my listings, what I'm seeing is list price and even under. It
Yeah.
just really depends on how they're being priced.
Absolutely. Oh, hey, and real fast before we get too far away from that, so y'all had mentioned earlier about, like, the prices of duplexes, right? 650. It is definitely very much a large price, right? But the important thing to consider, really, when it comes down to something like this, is that we are going to be renting out and offsetting the mortgage on one side of that property. So if we're able to do that, what we're normally qualified for on a single family residence, don't let that kind of say, okay, on a multifamily, that's just way too much out of my park, because we do have that variable at play there to be able to lease out that other side. And that helps to offset that portion of the mortgage payment to allow you to qualify at those higher purchase price limits. So
And thank you for mentioning that, because a lot of people are under the impression I have to qualify for 650 or 500. Like, my income doesn't match up to that. But as you said, you guys also count what the current tenant is paying, so you guys can offset that,
absolutely
qualify,
Can
right?
you give me an idea of what that looks like? So if I have a buyer looking for a duplex, what kind of mortgage payment should they expect? And maybe like a very basic, like elementary level, to explain to me.
There's a lot of variables at play there. It'd be very difficult. If you wanted to send on a case by case, I could absolutely definitely forecast that and stuff, but the
650K, let's just play
say that again.
Let's just say off of 650K, what a mortgage would look like. And the rents are, let me see, I'm going to just make up a rent in this.
Just do 2,000 on one side.
2,000 on one side. We'll do 2K.
2,000 on one side, right? Yeah. So on a $650,000 property, oh gosh, I mean, prime credit right now, rates are ranging depending on where your credit score lies at. You're looking at anywhere from around the in the 5 to going up. We're now teetering into 6% range, right? So it's a scary time. But I think right now, with everything that's been going on, investors and such, the bond market has been reacting. It's been volatile because of inflation and stuff like that. But anyways, excuse me, going back to it. So a $650,000 purchase price, the rent on that the mortgage on that, you would probably be looking at the range of about like 5,000 roughly. I want a ballpark. Yeah, around 5,000, and there's a lot to play into that. We need to take into consideration property taxes, things like that, right? The mortgage insurance, to how we're going into the loan, right? So that's why I always recommend reach out to a person like myself, and then we can guide you down that path. And the important thing is that when you're working with a loan officer, that you have a loan officer that looks at every option that's out there for you. I can't tell you enough in my profession and stuff. Loan officers will just simply look at what's the most simplistic thing to do. But that doesn't help the consumer. That doesn't tell the consumer, these are our options out here. So then they can feel themselves that they're a part of the process, and then they're making a good collective decision for themselves or their family. Yeah.
So by that calculation, I'm thinking if someone's looking at, and this is just, you guys, we're making scenarios up here.
Hold on, Melissa. Quick disclaimer before you finish your sentence. If you're really looking for a duplex, right, get with the loan officer first.
Okay,
they will tell you what you can
definitely
do, what's within your capacity. But again, that was a quick disclaimer. Go ahead, Melissa, finish up.
Because I'm thinking off the top of my head, right? I'm thinking like 500,000-ish duplex with rent rates around the 22 to 2,500 range, because that's completely reasonable for Austin. That's not uncommon, right? So you have maybe a 2-2 and a 2-2, like 2 bed, 2 bath, maybe even the 3-2 duplex in the 500 range, and renting one side out for 2,500. I mean, that could be doable for someone, right? To have a mortgage payment like that and rent the other half.
You have, and then the absolutely wonderful part of a multifamily residence is that you literally have somebody in your property that is helping to build that equity pool with you, right? Yeah. So you're just yourself establishing more of a asset, really, when it comes down to that. So I'm a huge fan of multifamily residence. First time home buyers out there, if you guys see this, 1000% consider it. Don't rule it out and stuff. The prices of the homes may be daunting and stuff, but then you work with somebody like myself and we can try to get you there and stuff. And then that will put you in a very good position.
Absolutely. Yeah. I 100% agree with you on that, Jason. I have a question for you. It just popped in my mind. Again, guys, this is not scripted. It's unscripted. This is just a casual convo that we're having with what we're seeing. But I'm wondering, and I'm curious, are you seeing more buyers considering adjustable rate mortgages?
Arms. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So for everyone out there, we have, you have your fixed interest rates, and then you have your adjustable rate mortgages, which work off of what's called an index. Historically speaking, indexes on an ABOR, you're looking at around like in the low 5% range. So right in 2 years ago, I would have probably not recommended an ARM to anybody. Right. Rates were too low. They could not compete. It was just, it was in benefit, right, of staying with the fixed interest rate. Today, though, in today's market, 1000%, you can very likely find an ARM, less than your fixed interest rate. So it's important that you really, you do not rule that out. But I'm absolutely seeing a lot more ARMs for sure.
The recommendation for that, Jason, would be for someone maybe that would really understand the true risks of that. And then you can tell them if they're a good candidate for that type of loan, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you will see fluctuations when it comes to an ARM. But I mean, if I can show y'all if I had the ability to show y'all like a 25-year historical graph of how the ARM has adjusted over the last 25 years and what the median rate has been, right? And we have our mortgages as a standard of 30 years. Granted, we stay there. It's very good. It's been very relatively, well priced with the whole market of rates and stuff like that as it is. Yeah.
And who would be an ideal buyer? Like, who would be the ideal buyer for the client for that?
Yeah. So the way ARMs work is they're 3 to 6, 5 to 6, 7 to 6. So what that means is basically you're going to remain within a 3-year fixed rate. And then after that, you have the adjustment of every 6 months that you have the ability to adjust. Then you go the next one with the 5. That's a 5-year fixed rate. And then you have the 7-year fixed rate and stuff. So if, for instance, if we have somebody that wants to purchase, right, they want to go ahead and do that, and they're going to be in an area that they know for a limited period of time. An ARM would be an absolutely good thing. If you said, hey, I know I'm going to be here for 5 years, but we're definitely going to move after that, right? Then I would absolutely recommend, let's consider an ARM. Let's look at that option there because there's definitely some great savings that could be had for sure.
Exactly. Nice. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I was going to ask something that's super crazy, but when I had someone reach out to me, they're like, what about refi? And I'm like, no.
Refinancing, it has a place right now.
Die? I want to know when they die. Was that in March or February?
Yeah. February, March, we could have definitely still been doing that. Now, there's refinancing is not completely out of the question, depending on where your rate was. If you didn't refinance during the last 2 years, right, and you have a rate that's like, from 2009 or, in this last period, depending on where you were at that time, your credit could have drastically improved, right? So your rate could be drastically different. That's why it's important to reach out to someone like myself, and then we can do that analysis and stuff. Whenever you do a refinance, you're going to incur about 1 to 2% of fees for that. So it's important that we need to consider that for the longevity savings of the house, of the loan, right? Is it a good financial decision? But then on top of that, there's other situations that definitely make it a very good decision. And that would be for cash out refinances, right? Maybe we have a large expense or something that we want to do with some of the equity that we have, wonderfully gained over, the last how many ever years, and 2 years really, if you bought a house, right? Appreciation has been absolutely through the roof, prior to last year or the last 2 years, standard appreciation was around 4 to 5% in a good market, So what has happened recently, it's unprecedented, right? So let's just say I have a large expense that I want to go ahead and incur, right? Then absolutely, a cash out refinance would definitely be something to very much consider for sure, as opposed to taking out a privatized loan with somebody else that you're going to be at a much, much higher interest rate. And maybe the short repayment term and that payment that's involved with that just doesn't meet with what you need and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Melissa. Go ahead, Melissa.
No,
Oh,
because I was asking, but I was just curious. This is a curiosity thing only.
Okay.
Have you seen loans coming through your desk at CMG Financing? Is where you're at, right? CMG.
Yep. Yeah, I am.
Jason battles at CMG.
I need to update that on the little signature line right there.
Yeah, just old CMG.
Yeah.
But have you seen an increase in the contracts coming through to your desk outside of Travis County loans?
Outside of Travis County. So have I seen more contracts coming in exterior areas?
Yes.
For sure. Definitely. Okay. Definitely. Yeah. A lot of the times right now it's, I'm definitely seeing because it's just more price conscious, right?
That's
right. We can, it's exactly right. Right. So it's more price conscious. I have a couple that's buying down in the Kyle area, right? They were looking at a builder and they were able to sweep in on a resale property $15,000 than what the builder was actually selling it for. $15,000 less. That was a huge win in their book. They were on the fence about it because it was just such a big commitment. I said, guys, look, if you're going to do this, your time is not to wait. Interest rates will come and go. Don't let that to be the deciding factor of what you're doing now, because the sooner you put yourself in that property with a percentage that can definitely be refinanced and changed in the future, you're going to start building that equity pool and then actually contributing to your own personal retirement, really, let's just say, as opposed to paying rent somewhere else where you have absolutely no return.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, going on that with the buyer's sentiment, right, in this market, are you seeing more buyers come your way because they're like, you know what, maybe the market's shifting? I mean, it's still a seller's market, but it has changed quite a bit, right? What with multiple offers and being able to actually get a house, a resale home. Are you seeing that change on your end, or are you seeing buyers telling you they want to hold off because they're waiting?
They're waiting, right? Yeah. It's a mixed bag.
I don't know what to say. I don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen, but I don't know.
My gosh, yeah. Trust me, in the finance world, we all wish we had a crystal ball, right? Yeah. We try to forecast as much as we possibly can, but it's a difficult thing to do. We have a constantly changing economy. We have things that are outside of everyone's control, of course, and things just happen, right? So, but yeah.
Is it
So,
50-50?
that's
I don't know. I feel like that's my end, right? I've had some buyers who are like, you know what, with things changing, I'm gonna hold off, right? I'm gonna lease for a little bit, or I'm gonna hold off and see what happens, right? And then others, they're just waiting for a good deal to come up for them, and not good deal, but what I mean is an opportunity before they make a decision to move forward. But I wasn't sure if you were seeing that on your end as well, if it was like a 50-50 thing, or
it's definitely a 50-50 thing. Really the main topics of discussion that I have with people is that they have either heard from friends or family, somebody that's in their circle that, the market is going to change. It's going to have a massive correction, right? That's what we are all hearing about, right? With the looming recession that's over our head right now, with the entire, country. That's the big factor here. So people think Austin, surrounding areas, Texas in general, very much, I personally believe, insulated to this factor. Will it happen around the country? It's very likely, yeah.
Yes.
We're dealing with the after effects of COVID and stuff right there, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it's generally that we're either in fear of a market correction, where interest rates have now then got too outside of my comfort zone. So that's the other thing here. Well, I tell people generally to that, to rest assured on the market, I don't feel there's personally, going to be a massive market correction, at least in the Texas, Austin area and stuff like that. I don't think so. I think what we're going to see is what we're seeing now, is that we're going to see a leveling off and stuff, right? With where prices have gone, where rates have gone, investors are kind of not so aggressively buying in our market and buying up all the real estate, Yeah, and it's actually giving our buyers an opportunity to come in. And so with that said, I tell people, the sooner you get in, absolutely the better. With interest rates, don't let it determine any of your financial decisions now. That is a temporary number on paper. And historically speaking, if we go back, and I time graph this all the way back to like the 80s, going all the way to current, every decade, you will see a slight spike in interest rates, but the following decade, it goes down. So if you look at it exactly, so if you look at a historical graph, they're only going to come down. It's just the general movement of it, And so, yeah, there's just too much proof in the pudding to deny it, right? So,
Exactly.
Did you see what I put down there? I said, don't wait, buy now. Best time to buy a home was yesterday.
That's right. that is absolutely right. Yeah.
And we were seeing, I talked to Liza before we went live, and I saw something on one of our private Facebook groups that builders, and I won't mention who this builder is, we're seeing this, but one builder in Leander offering $80K worth incentives to buyers. So these overbuilding and overzealous builders that are just like build are having a hard time putting people in these homes because their prices were through the roof. So, Hey, buyers, resale, it's the way to go. Yes, you can get into a new construction, but you're going to get a better deal and steady and more predictable valuation. Like you can tell by the neighborhood what your home value growth is going to look like in resale.
Right.
I don't know. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and real fast to touch base on that. When you're going into new construction, it's a good thing. I'm a fan of both sides of things, but there's a lot of risk involved with going into new construction, right? You need to work with, like myself, we offer long-term lock, so I can lock people up to 360 days, right?
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Okay. Those rates, the longer you lock a rate, the longer so you have your standard rate lock terms of like 30 days. That's, you can go less than that if you really have, in a specific situation. But 30 days is your general. Then as you go beyond that, the longer you lock a loan, the more expensive that interest rate then becomes. So when we're locking at 360 days, the rates will be higher because we've locked over such a long period of time. But what we're securing ourselves from is volatility, right? So for instance, let's just put January and February. Those are our biggest rate swings of, historically speaking, right? Since 2009, right? So with that said, locking somebody prior to that, even though we would have locked them on a gigantic long-term lock, it would have shielded them from having that swing of rate happening and them potentially not qualifying for the house once it's ready. And that would be the biggest, loss right there, is that you built this beautiful home, you've got all excited about it, but then rates have just simply slipped out from underneath your legs. You know what I mean? Yeah,
exactly. That was so tough to see, that buyers that got under contract last year and built their dream home. And that's exactly, gosh, man, just having that tough conversation. Like I tell this to my buyers too, whenever they're considering new construction, I say, we don't know what's going to happen in the market. Interest rates could continue to rise. It could maybe dip a little bit. It could remain the same. We don't know what's going to happen. So are you prepared for that monthly payment? Are you going to have to back out? And if you need to back out, what are you going to lose, right? You lost time, you lost deposits you put down that are, some builders initially, they were doing non-refundable, really large, grossly large deposits. Now I'm seeing in a lot of my emails, they're doing like a smaller commitment deposits, but they have much more inventory. They're offering incentives, some of them have offered some price reductions from what I've seen, and other ones, if they're on the lower end of the price bracket, they're like, no price reduction, but we will offer these incentives, right? For inventory homes. But yeah, I mean,
you can't even guarantee your home be built in a reasonable amount of time. I've got a buyer with the same builder that I'm talking about. We're not mentioning builders' names, but
we won't name names.
Careful with that.
We won't do that, but
we won't name names. Yeah,
we won't. But sadly, I mean, this is so sad. Think about this. Their home has been at foundation and frame phase since November and nothing else.
Oh,
it's honestly, yeah.
You tell me how crazy that is to go through 2 seasons. They went through winter. They went through spring. We are in the summer, and their house is just sitting there. And I'm thinking,
sitting there,
what is going on? And delays, inventory, supply issues. I understand the supplies, the things they need to build the home, but that's it's just a risk. Again,
it's a very huge risk. Yeah. Oh.
Nope, she went out. It's fine. She'll come back in. It's just you and I.
Yeah.
What happens on the
but with what Melissa's with what Melissa's saying, it is definitely much. It's a very huge risk, right? There's a lot of reward and stuff, but there's a lot of risk with everything that we do here. So really, as a consumer, as a purchaser in the market and stuff like that, locking your rate. Hey there. Locking your rate sooner as opposed to later is definitely in your best benefit, right? You want to make sure that where you start, where you initially talk numbers at, that you're not going to be, a standard build process prior to all of these delays was a 7-month build process, right? Now and some of my buyers they've been 9, 10. I even had a buyer that went to 12 months on a build process, right? Because they were having issues with materials, with permitting, with things like that, construction starts. I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on, yeah. So having that peace of mind from the financing side of things, I can't speak highly enough. It will definitely take a lot of stress off their shoulders.
Yeah, for sure. And I had another question. So since we're on the new build subject, are you, because with everything that's happened with valuations, right, with the county valuations increasing people's taxes, I know some lenders will do their tax prorations based on raw land, and that's scary.
Yes.
That's
a red flag to have.
Yeah, what are you doing with those buyers, right? I'm just kind of curious to know on that end.
So myself as a loan officer, anytime, and this is really everyone out there, this is what your loan officer should be telling you when you're dealing with new construction. It's important that, they're constantly keeping, we're building a relationship here, just like with Melissa and Liza, that we're building a relationship here, right? So it's important. We're essentially family beyond this point. So, with my new constructions, I always tell people, we do 80%. We do 80% of purchase price times the local tax rate to determine what improved value will be. But with the way the market has been, this year has been insane because people were getting valuations back. Let's just say, for instance, to give a scenario, I had purchasers that bought 350 last year. Well, they just received their first notice of appraised value for 450,000. That's a gigantic swing in your property taxes. And your first year is what truly sets the baseline for your property taxes. So what I've been trying to prepare my buyers with, that I closed last year, and said, hey guys, this coming up in March, you're going to receive your notice of appraised value. And that's the county giving you the assessment of what your property taxes are. Your first year is paramount that you do keep an eye out for this document, and you don't just let it fall wayside, because if it goes unprotested, then that will take that swing in your payment in the following year. So it's just very important to keep, be conscious of that. And so, so I've been having everybody that I closed last year on new construction reaching out to me this year, and I just been helping and just trying to guide people in the right direction of how that protest process works. And it's been actually very good. It's been very good. A lot of people, I can't say this is factual information, but I had a lot of people in the county that they were able to present their purchase contract to the county. And what they did is they took 2.5% from the month they closed to the end of the year. So compounding that, and that's what they added to their purchase price, and that's just what they changed their value. So to draw this into a numbers perspective, they received a valuation that was 100,000 higher this year, right? They went through this protest process. They went all the way through it to the very end, and to the appraisal review board, and they were able to come back at a $40,000 increase or a $30,000 increase.
Like, I'll take it.
I'll take it. Anything that's not 100, right?
That's right. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So it seems, it seems the sentiment here, even though with inflation, increased interest rates, these property taxes, right, that buyers are now a bit more hopeful. Like they're not really letting that get to them. They just go to you as a professional, right? You're the main source to see what is my purchase power, right? What can I afford? And then go off of that after they get, it seems like we need to do some like pep talk, right? Here's what we can work with. I feel like that's where we're going. Despite everything that's happened, I feel like I've had buyers, even in certain price points where I'm like, whoa, that's really low. And surprisingly enough, they're out there when I look. So all we got to do is look for it. So I'm not sure if that's what you experienced on your end, but it seems like it's looking positive for buyers. I know for sellers, it's not, it's kind of scary. We don't know what's really going to happen or how long their home is going to stay on the market. But for buyers, there's that positive, that optimism that they're going to be able to get a home this year.
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%.
I know.
seeing a lot less competing of the markets, and it's just opening up the doors. I'm receiving a lot more calls of people that are interested in, because these people, when they first initially contacted me, everyone gets all the apps and stuff, right? We all get all the apps and stuff, right? And so, and they're starting to see price reduction here, house on the market, 15 days, right? And so, and I think right now there's two factors at hand here that are actually helping this. One, we have it's investors that are kind of jumping out of the market, right? Because the looming recession, the factors that play there, they don't know if it's so much of a good risk for them. And then sellers on that aspect, they're concerned that they're not going to get so much over asking price, or their value will go down. So then they're actually, people that were considering of selling to repurchase, or for whatever reason, they're actually coming out now and saying, hey, look, let's go ahead and sell. I think it's a time. Let's not wait. And so these two factors colliding with one another are benefiting one another, and actually turning beneficial for our purchasers that are really trying to either first time home buy or not go in crazy over asking price.
Exactly.
So in my Manor market, because I do a market watch for Manor, we had two numbers in the last 7 days that I thought were very interesting. We had 18 new active listings and 25, Jason, price decreases in 7 days.
Wow.
We had more price decreases than active listings in the Manor area in the last 7 days. Is that not the craziest thing you've heard?
That is absolutely crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I love this information from you guys. It's just, that is crazy. Wow.
It is. I mean, it's definitely, buyers now feel like, you know what, maybe we can go. And this is not to say that all houses are staying on the market longer and then they're experiencing price reduction. I mean, some houses are priced accordingly, and they do have multiple offers, but I'm talking about in general. I think buyers feel like, you know what, let's view it. Let's do it either below asking price or at asking price, or, you know what, I only have 2K, which is unheard of last year and into the first of this quarter. I'm seeing buyers get under contract just a bit or a tad bit above asking price or at asking price or even below. That's more common now, with either some closing costs, or they're able to negotiate repairs, or there's so much that they're throwing out there that they feel it's a win for them, right? Despite it being still a seller's market. So
exactly, right. Sellers are still generally sellers are still making a handsome amount of money on their properties, right? Some that would have,
good word to use.
there you go. Exactly. Yes, it is. It is just, it's so beneficial, right? Are we at the time where it was last year and people were getting 60, 80,000 over asking price? No, right? That was something that has just historically never happened.
No. None of us experienced it. We're like, what is going on?
I know. Yeah. One thing to note on the stats that I gave you, only 4 of those homes are 2022 builds. The rest of them are resale of the new inventory.
Yeah. So that is incredible right there. Yeah. Yeah. That is some shocking news for sure. So there's that variable at hand right there that I think is just, it's important to consider and stuff like that. But I'm very much of a fan of everything that's happening right now. I think it's good. I think it's good I think our sellers, there are going to be a buyer, right? When they sell, unless they have a specific situation, they are going to repurchase. So you will be in that same boat that, again, right? So, right now, I think the balancing of the market right now, it's a good thing. It's meeting eye to eye right now. And then once that happens, everyone can move and do what they want to do, whether buying, selling, and repurchasing comfortably, and not have that fear and that uncertainty. Interest rates are where they are. It's a whole separate topic I could get on for a long time, and I don't think we have enough time in this stream.
We'll do that next time.
We'll do that
yes,
next
but if anybody has any questions about that, I probably talk too much. So, and I just
tell our audience how they would reach you, Jason.
Yeah. So once again, it's Jason Battles, as y'all see down there below. I'm with CMG Financial. Y'all can reach me at 512-627-6124. That's my cell phone. And then my email address is my first initial. Yes. 512. Yeah, 512-627-6124. And my email address for my company email is going to be my first initial, last name at cmgfi.com.
Okay, first initial.
I make myself available to.
All right, cmgfi.com.
You got it. Yeah, jbattles@cmgfi.com.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
I'm
You know,
going
put it up
to,
Feel free to Google me. Feel free to Google me. I
about
pride
to,
myself on providing my.
cool. I'm about to
Yeah.
put your information out
she's
here
gonna
for
put it up.
people. Yeah, I'm about to put it on here so people can see. Y'all, if y'all see
Oh,
the
J
comment-
Battles. I'm sorry, not J dot Battles, just J Battles.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Let me
No
read
period on there. That's okay.
I'll fix it.
right
That's
now.
okay. The rest of it is absolutely perfect.
So Jason, while I'm correcting this error real quick, the magical question that I get all the time, again, I'm buyer heavy, so I do work with a lot of buyers. They want to know, Liza, so should I hold off or should I buy now? Right.
Yeah.
I always tell people it depends, right? If it makes sense for you now, there's no reason to wait. But maybe that's a realtor mindset, right? And maybe from your perspective, what would you say to a buyer that's asking you, should I buy now or should I wait? And this is assuming that they qualify now for the property. What would you say to that particular buyer asking that question? Thanks, Melissa, for putting that out there.
So it's a very, very good question that I'm actually presented all the time. So I always tell people it's very good to buy now. We don't know what the future is going to be. And in the event that it does get better, things get better, you can refinance, you can lower that rate drastically, right? Then let's just say we start our house off with FHA financing, right? Mm-hmm. Where the mortgage insurance remains for the life of the loan, right? So, but then if we put ourselves in the house now, we can start building that equity pool. And then when we refinance, if there's enough equity within it, we can get rid of what's called private mortgage insurance, which is a composition of our monthly payment. So, so don't let interest rates scare everybody out there. It's never going to be a right time. It's just when you're considering it, do it. It's going to be in your benefit for sure.
Right. It's always a risk waiting because you just don't know. I think people are expecting for prices to drop. You have a lot of these influencers talking about, oh, expect 30 to 40% price decreases. But the thing is that we don't know that interest rates, we don't know what those are going to be. So even if houses did decrease by, I don't know, 10, 15, 20%, let's just say hypothetically, we're speaking here, but interest rates are a lot higher. I mean, you're right in the same boat as if now, right? I mean, what do you say about that? Because I've been asked.
One exchanges one for the other. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. Definitely.
Same. So I would say if it makes sense now, do it now. And like you said, I think the key thing you said was the equity, right? As time goes, you're building that equity. And with that security that hopefully in the future, if the opportunity presents itself, you can refinance at a lower interest rate. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I get these questions all the time. And I'm not pushy in any way. I always have a candid conversation with my client. Yeah, I want them to know exactly what they're getting themselves into and what it means so they can ultimately make the decision. But gosh, it's so hard to know really what's going to happen. It's really taking a risk waiting unless you need to save money and you're in a predicament, then okay, then it makes sense to wait. But if you're ready now, I mean...
You know my saying, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Okay?
And the very, very important thing. So let's see. Oh, I see a question. Can I answer on this actually? Yeah. Should people set up their own escrow account in case tax rates increase more than anticipated? So, I'm very much a huge fan of escrow accounts, Brian. So, I'm a very much huge fan of escrow account. Now they do, for a couple of reasons. One, when you come to a lender and you're looking at interest rates, if you escrow, it's actually it makes your rate just a hair better, because if you self escrow, it's a risk layer to the lender. So you have what's called a loan level pricing adjustments, real in-depth talk, but affects interest rate very minimally. Also, setting up your own escrow account. So whenever you're getting billed out on your taxes, that lender is going to get that bill that December, if the county releases it, or October, excuse me, they're going to be paying it. And then they're going to do your escrow analysis at the end of every year. And then your payment will adjust in the following year. You might have a shortage within your escrow account, which is like a reserve account for these increases of taxes and homeowners insurance that can occur over time. That's when it comes to our total monthly housing payment. That's the variable that will fluctuate here and there. But I would say it's to each their own when it comes to this. Someone that I would recommend to self escrow if you're in a position to where you have large amounts of income that come in specific times of the year. Like, let's just say I'm in a commission base and I get quarterly commissions, or but the rest of those months I'm kind of on the lower end of the spectrum, right? So I want to be at comfortable living, and then I'm okay with paying my property taxes and my homeowner's insurance, but with on this and specifically, so if it increases, the lender will increase it in the following year when it's due and paid. And then if there's a shortage, they'll give you two different options to be able to bring your escrow shortage up. That's going to be either a one-time payment to take care of the shortage, or they'll take that shortage and they will temporarily increase your housing payment by dividing that number over 12 months and stuff, which I always recommend to people. Pay it up front, just deal with it. Yeah. And don't have that, that it'll turn into a mental thing, Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
Thank you
cool.
for that. Thank you for that question. And thank you for answering that.
Absolutely.
Well,
So we were talking. Oh my gosh, I completely lost track when I saw it. We were on the topic right there for a second, and I just completely
let's
lost my
see.
train of thought on that one.
I lost my train of thought too. This is what happens when we're
you're
live.
cute, Liza. I said you're-
Let me think. Let me
Yeah.
just.
So actually, to kind of talk on a topic real fast, so people's biggest questions is, what are interest rates going to do? Where are they at? What's going to happen in the foreseeable future, right? Oh, no. I know what I was going to talk about. Excuse me. Let's backtrack for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
So people consider the fact of, our price is going to dip, and things like that, right? Well, inflation has hit, right? These houses that need to be constructed in new construction and stuff like that. And as we accommodate for a growing economy and stuff like that, as much as, that will affect resales as well, right? Because the overall cost of goods are higher, right? The consumer price index, there's just, it's growing, right? There's the cost of goods is higher, inflation is hitting. So if there's always the possibility of a market correction or a market reduction, things like that, right? But personally, with inflations, I think we're here to stay. I think, will we keep growing at such a massive rate? No, it's going to start going within a normal period. So if I would say, if that is a concern of yours, don't let it determine what you're going to do, because the sooner you get yourself into a house, even if you were to take a slight reduction, which I doubt is going to occur, because I think right now houses are a very, very good price point versus, with everything considered. But let's just say, theoretically, what if we did, I take a little bit of a loss, the house does go down in value, it's going to correct itself, it's going to come back up. It's just the way things have to happen. It's with the more money that is being printed, the cost of everything goes up. Inflation is there.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm glad you mentioned that, Liza, because I was at a crossroads. We bought land, and I thought, should we just go full speed ahead and build that, custom dream home? And I'm like, we just renovated, Liza, we did a full remodel on this house. Yes. And I'm like, I really wanted to enjoy this home. But then I start getting in my head, because I'm looking at these numbers and these statistics, and I'm like, I could go crazy right now and do like this itchy trigger finger reaction and put my house in the market right now and get it and just be like, okay, at least I sold it for this much. So you know what? If I take a dip and my value just drops a little bit, I'm in this for another 3 years. And I think we can do a little self-correction within the 3 to 4 year mark, because we've only been in here under 2. Right. So I think I'll be fine if I have to live here another 4 years. It's a beautiful home, and I think I'll be fine.
Exactly, right. Homes are long-term investments, right? Generally speaking, they are. For our standard buyer profile, these are long-term investments, right? These are their dream homes. These are the ability of having the home ownership dream and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So I would say, with where things are with market conditions, economic data out there, even with what economists are saying right now, and all of this encompassing around the fact of what we're dealing with here in the Austin and Texas market, let's just say, and the overall influx of people that are moving here from other states, I would rest easy on it. I don't think people really should have that as a major concern in their forefront.
Yeah, exactly.
This has been great.
Yeah, this has been
at our mark, but I love it, Jason. Just so you guys, the audience, know, Jason's been a trusted lender for quite some time, and I pulled him in last minute because we had some, family and life situations going on with our ATX homegirls. And I said, Liza, it's just going to be me and you. Let me see who I can get last minute. So this guy's a trooper. He came in. So thank you so much, Jason.
You're so very welcome. Thanks so much for having me. Everyone, y'all got my information there. Please don't hesitate in reaching out. Everyone out there that y'all know, I work 24/7. I tell people, reach out to me, call me, text me. I might not pick up if it's too late, but it's never a bother. I'm there for everybody. Don't hesitate in reaching out.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. I'm going to add I know everybody sees the comment there on the screen, but I'm also going to add your information when the stream ends to where people can see. If they ever wanted to go back and get your information, they can see and get your information and contact you if they ever need your services. So I appreciate you chiming in with us, because we really needed one more person. Like, it's nice when we have realtors talking. It's cool, but it's nice also to get a different perspective from a lender like yourself. I know you guys normally do higher volume in transactions, so you're able to see, get a better scope of what's really going on and what's changed and what's, you know what I mean? Like the new changes that you're seeing on your end. But I appreciate you coming on. And guys,
we'd love to have you back too. So
absolutely, I would love it. Thank y'all so much for having me on. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Everyone out there, it's been a pleasure. Everybody have a fantastic rest of your 2022. And I look forward to talking to y'all very soon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And guys, don't forget, we are ATX Homegirls. And please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We do bring valuable content about anything real estate here in the greater Austin area. So again, we are out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.
Bye. Bye.